Do you know there are places in the world where being American could actually make things complicated? Isn't it shocking? I mean, who wouldn't want burgers, baseball, and Beyoncé fans visiting their country? Turns out there are a few places where flashing your Stars and Stripes passport might not win you a warm welcome. But the question is why? What's the deal, and is it something Americans can change? Stick around as we count down the top 10 countries where Americans are least welcome. Let's explore the reasons, bust some myths, and maybe even ask ourselves, is it them or is it us? Number 10, North Korea. Let's kick things off with the most obvious one, North Korea, aka the Forbidden Kingdom. Americans are about as welcome here as pineapple on pizza. Decades of tension between the US and North Korea have branded Americans as public enemy number one. This resulted in a complete ban on US citizens visiting this mysterious isolated nation. Yup, even thinking about it could land you on someone's watch list. The travel ban became official in 2017, sparked by a tragic event. Otto Warmbier, a young American student, was detained in North Korea for allegedly stealing a propaganda poster. He was returned to the US in a coma and tragically passed away shortly after. This horrifying case forced the US government to say, "That's it, no more!" And just like that, North Korea became a no-go zone for Americans. So unless you're planning the world's riskiest Netflix documentary, North Korea is a hard no. Stick to watching it from a safe distance because there are some places you just don't want to explore firsthand. Number 9, Iran. Moving on, let us travel to Iran. This one's a bit tricky. On the one hand, it's a beautiful country with amazing people and a rich culture. But then there's the politics. The relations between the United States and Iran are similar to a bitter breakup. The two are constantly sniping at each other. Traveling to Iran as an American has its own difficulties. Censorship and authorities' distrust. It's all part of the package, but here's the twist. The locals don't care. They will embrace you and tell you many things and make you feel like the guest of the day. It's like walking into a room where everyone is cheering for you, but the governments are glaring daggers at each other. The ancient city of Persepolis, the azure dome of the Nasir al-Mulk Mosque, Iran is any traveler's paradise. Just to let you know, keep it hush-hush. Do not discuss politics, do not argue, and explore the culture instead. Trust us, in Iran, the real magic is behind the people and the history. Number 8, Venezuela. This place lands in the spotlight as one of the most contrasting places on Earth. First, there is stunning natural beauty, including the pride of the country, the Angel's Falls, the world's highest waterfall, and some of the most beautiful terrains one could imagine. But then, the country is threatened with a hard economic crisis, political instability, and high levels of crime. Taking a closer look, it's like stepping into paradise, where the shadow of chaos is always lurking nearby. Of course, for Americans, the visit to Venezuela has its own peculiarities and can be quite problematic. Years of political rivalry and American sanctions have made people, especially Americans, become objects of suspicion. Never think of traveling Venezuela with US dollars. Keep the cash hidden. Flashing wealth can make you an instant target. However, in the heart of Venezuelans, there is an unprecedented optimism during all this turbulence. They are some of the friendliest people one is ever likely to come across, always ready to welcome you even when the cards are heavily down on their side. Here's the fun fact: Venezuela has the biggest oil reserves globally, but millions of its people are emigrating due to poverty and lack of basic resources. It's a land in which the best and the worst of life is often depicted. Well, the big question is, would you take the risk to experience such a place knowing the dangers that come with it? Number 7, Russia. It's the birthplace of vodka, world-class ballet, and some jaw-dropping architecture. But for Americans, it's also the land of side-eyes and red tape. Visiting Russia is like stepping into a spy movie, only you're the accidental main character. One moment you're enjoying a bowl of borscht, and the next someone's jokingly asking if you're a secret agent. Russians themselves are some of the warmest, most hospitable people you'll meet. Seriously, if you can get past the frosty stares, you'll find folks ready to share stories, laughs, and maybe a shot of vodka. But can you really separate a country's people from its politics? That's the million-dollar question. One moment you're bonding over how amazing Tolstoy is, the next you're navigating a conversation about, well, let's just say delicate topics. And here's a fun stereotype. In Russia, they think all Americans are loaded with cash. So don't be surprised if people treat you like you're a walking ATM. Just maybe don't let them catch a glimpse of your student loan balance. Trust me, it's better for everyone. Number 6, Saudi Arabia. Ranked number 6 on the list, Saudi Arabia is a fascinating but challenging destination. Americans can visit, but let's be real, it's not your typical vacation spot. This is no kick back with a margarita by the pool kind of place. Strict laws, a deeply rooted conservative culture, and some rocky history make it a destination you'll want to research before packing your bags. For ladies, you'll need headscarves, and for men, respect the dress code. And for everyone, public displays of affection are a hard pass. In Saudi Arabia, you play by the rules, or, well, you don't play at all. But now the air of change is blowing. Saudi Arabia is turning into an open society, opening its doors to tourists like never before. It's a country where ancient traditions meet bold modernization. You can be marveling at a 2,000-year-old Nabatean tomb and explore futuristic cities like Neom. And while the laws may seem intense, the locals are to the core. They won't give you a hug, but they'll invite you for tea and a feast that'll leave you stuffed. So, would you visit a place that feels like stepping into another era just to witness history being rewritten? Number 5, China. A country where ancient history meets modern-day intrigue. Think epic landscapes, fascinating culture, and a bit of a love-hate relationship with Americans. From trade wars to cultural clashes, there's never a dull moment between these two global giants. Now, if you've ever wanted the feeling of being watched, China's got you. With one of the world's largest surveillance systems, you won't just be a visitor, you'll be starring in your very own Big Brother episode. Yep, the cameras are always rolling! But let's not forget, despite all the drama, Americans still can't resist China. After all, the Great Wall draws millions of tourists every year. But before you start snapping pics, remember, your social media might not work and your every move could be tracked. So while tensions brew and the political waters stay choppy, one thing's for sure, China will give you an experience that's hard to forget. Whether you're walking along ancient wonders or navigating the maze of modern-day China, expect to be part of something bigger under watchful eyes. Number 4, Cuba. The Cuban island is where time seems to have hit pause back in the 1950s. The cars, the buildings, the vibe. It's like stepping into a time machine, but if you're an American, getting here comes with some serious problems. Why such hassle? Well, decades of embargoes and political tension between Cuba and the US mean that Americans can only visit under very specific conditions. No fancy resorts or beachside cocktails for you. Forget about lounging on a tropical paradise. Instead, you'll be stuck with a list of people-to-people activities. That means you can only engage in educational tours and cultural exchanges. So, unless you're into history lessons and community projects, this might not be your dream vacation. In 2019, over 500,000 Americans visited Cuba despite these restrictions. That's crazy! They came for the history, the culture, and the thrill of doing something most people think is off-limits. But don't get too excited about those Cuba Instagram posts. You'll have to jump through some serious hoops before you're sipping mojitos in Havana. Now, would you be brave enough to join them? Number 3, Afghanistan. Let's discuss a place that is off the charts for Americans as per the Global Safety Index. Now, I hear your objection, but Afghanistan was a popular destination for the backpacker trail in the 60s and 70s called the Hippie Trail. You can't believe what has happened to this country. Fast forward to today, and Afghanistan is on no one's list of vacation destinations, especially for Americans. Years of conflict, political instability, and a Taliban government in place rank it among the most risky destinations to visit. Trust is a major issue, especially with how the U.S. left the country after the 2021 withdrawal. This generated ill feeling and animosity and made it even more difficult for Americans to enter safely. And on top of that, there are security threats which are always around the corner from insurgent groups or the Taliban. The dangers here outweigh the benefits. So if you are an adventurous soul, this might not be the best location to capture your next travel blog. But let's think for a second. Can we rebuild in areas that have been ravaged by war for years? Can those bridges be rebuilt? Both the literal and metaphorical ones. Here is a fun fact for you. In the old days, Afghanistan was the place where free spirits came to roam around the world. It was a place where hippies could find their peace before things started to go south. So is it a waste to travel to Afghanistan, or is it still possible to hope for a better tomorrow? Only time will tell. So keep on being curious, and as always, travel safe. Number 2, Somalia. All right, buckle up because we're heading to Somalia, which is often linked with piracy, chaos, and, well, danger. For Americans, this country's not exactly rolling out the welcome mat. Somalia is a place where lawlessness and piracy still hold sway, and Americans are not exactly the most wanted guests. The combination of kidnappings, terrorist groups, and a government that can't seem to get its act together makes this one of the least safe spots on the globe for U.S. citizens. So, unless you're on a very specific mission, Somalia should be at the bottom of your travel bucket list. But hold on, before we wrap it up with doom and gloom, let's take a closer look. Amidst all the chaos, there's resilience. The Somali people have a deep cultural history, filled with poetry, music, and rich traditions. There's a side of Somalia that most don't see. So, could Somalia ever see peace and safety for travelers? It's hard to say, but for now, it's definitely off the beaten path for most of us. Number 1, Yemen. And here we are at number 1 on the list. Yemen has beautiful sceneries, but it is marooned in a devastating conflict and misery. Yemen is at the moment experiencing a very severe civil war with famine in the country and still hostility towards Westerners. With so many risks, it is not only dumb to travel here as an American, but it is also very dangerous. The civil war has rendered it nearly unattainable for most people, and even more for tourists to tour the attractions. But here's where it gets heartbreaking. Is it possible to embrace the aesthetic appeal of a country without having to address the pains that a country is going through? Yemen is home to places like Socotra, often called the most alien-looking place on Earth. It is such a strange island that the shapes of the land and vegetation look as if they were taken from a movie about the future. It sounds great, but the truth is that due to the ongoing crisis, it is almost impossible to visit without encountering some serious dangers. So there you have your top 10 countries where Americans are least welcome. But let's flip the script. Instead of asking, why don't they like us? Maybe the better question is, how can we make a difference? Because at the end of the day, we're all just people trying to understand one another. Would you still visit one of these countries? And if you've been to any of them, what was your experience? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures across the world. And here's another exciting video for you.